Thank you, church. You may be seated this morning. Thank you, worship team. Such a powerful time of worship. So you guys know I like to do a recap of the previous week. And so last week we talked about the importance of time and the brevity of life. And we kind of challenged ourselves to go home and write down our priorities in life. If there's someone that we need to love them now. If there's someone that we need to forgive, we need to do it now. If there's someone that we know that we need to witness to, we need to do it now. Because no one is promised tomorrow, not you or not even myself. But we talked about and we kind of used the tragic helicopter crash that took place 2 weeks today, and it took the lives of 9 beautiful people. And one of those was NBA legend Kobe Bryant and his beautiful little 13-year-old daughter, Gianna. And we kind of just reflect on that and how so many people were saying on Facebook, man, Kobe was invincible. How could something like this happen to someone like that? And so it just went to show us that we don't know what tomorrow holds. Scripture says, do not boast about tomorrow because we do not know what a day may bring. And so that was a challenge for us. But you see, everyone here this morning has a shepherd. Every single person here this morning has someone or something that is guiding and directing and leading their life, whether we want to believe it or not. Maybe your shepherd is yourself. Maybe you are guiding your life. Maybe your career is guiding your life. Maybe it's an addiction. Maybe it's to drugs or to alcohol, and that right there is your shepherd. That is what is leading and directing and guiding your life through this road of chaos, this journey that we all call life. And so maybe it's an idol that you really, really look up to, and you are using that individual as a shepherd or as a guide to lead your life. But you see, Jesus tells us that I am the good shepherd. He says that if you will allow me to be your shepherd, then I will point you in the direction of hope and love that you cannot find in any other place. He says, I am the good shepherd. So the title of this morning's message is, Who's at Your Table? And that might not sound like it goes with what I just said, but we're going to get into that. That right there is the backbone of the message, is who is at your table? And when Jesus says that I am the good shepherd, it's almost like an invitation of, if I am the good shepherd, why do you not want to lay down your life? Why do you not want to push the other shepherds away and come follow after me? Why would you not want to do that? You see, King David, he gets it. And King David tells us that the Lord is his shepherd in Psalm 23, verse 1. He basically says that he understands that the Lord is the one that is guiding his life. This chapter is so inspiring, but yet it is challenging at the same time. And it says that the Lord is my shepherd. Now, David is not saying that the Lord is my shepherd. You don't have one. But if the Lord is King David's shepherd, who is your shepherd this morning? Is it the Lord? Or is it something else in life that you are allowing to guide and direct your life? King David says that the Lord is my shepherd, and because the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. Another translation says that the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. I lack nothing. Why does he not lack nothing? Why is he not in want? Because the Lord is his shepherd. He doesn't say that he doesn't have difficult times. He doesn't say that he doesn't walk through valleys of the shadow of death. He doesn't say that he doesn't have spiritual battles. He doesn't say that he doesn't have physical enemies that is trying to attack his life. But he says, regardless of that, I shall not be in want, because the Lord is the one that is guiding my life. And then he goes on to say that he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He restores my soul. And he guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And so David is telling us that this shepherd that he is encouraging us to follow, encouraging us to allow to be the director of our lives, he says there are going to be moments where he makes you do things. He makes us lie down in green pastures. And for some of that right there is automatically an issue. Because we want to be the ones that guides our lives. We're the ones that say we don't want no one making us do anything. But if that is the mindset of us this morning, then we might want to find a new shepherd. Because this shepherd is going to make us do things at times. Why would we want a God that makes us do things? Well, this shepherd has scars in his hands, in his feet, in his side. And he has earned the right to be our shepherd. Just like we talked about, we will never know how much it cost. We can read about it, but we really don't grasp the nastiness, how ugly the cross, how messy the cross really was. And so Jesus, this good shepherd, has earned the right to be our shepherd. He has earned that right. And you see, this isn't just a feel-good psalm. See, we oftentimes you want to say that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He soothes me. He rocks me to sleep at night. No. It says that he makes me. He makes me. But then it gets better. It says that he makes me. He leads me. He restores me. How many of you guys need to be made to do things sometimes? Come on now. I think every hand should go up. There's some hands down, but that's okay. I know that I have to be made to do things sometimes by the Lord, but not only does this shepherd that David is encouraging us to allow to just guide our lives, not only does he make us, but he leads us. And he restores our soul. There are some of us this morning that need to be made to do things. We need to be led. We so desperately are wanting some type of restoration. We are in desperate need of our soul that is in so much turmoil and chaos to be restored by the Good Shepherd. And we desperately, and we are dying for some guidance in our life. We are looking for guidance in our lives, but yet we look at times in the wrong places. When Jesus says clearly that I am the Good Shepherd. Then it goes on to say that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. The Good Shepherd is with me. He says that your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Now this comfort is not a hug. It's that we know that this shepherd is protecting us. He is fighting for us, and we know that we don't need a rod and a staff because this good shepherd has one, and he is fighting on our behalf. Every single moment of our lives, he is fighting for all of us. Psalm 23:5, it says that you prepare a table for me. You prepare a table for me. Where? In the presence of my enemies. Which means that he provides. The table is the provision of God. So you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And you anoint my head with oil. He blesses me. And my cup overflows with blessing. It overflows with blessing. So now we have a shepherd that makes us, he leads us, he restores us, he guides us, he protects us, he provides for us, he blesses us, he anoints us. And then it ends up saying in verse 6, surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. Now, goodness and love isn't just two little Disney animated characters that are just bippity-bopping down the road behind us. No, who is goodness? He is goodness. Who is love? God is love. So he is leading me. He is guiding me. He is restoring me. He is blessing me. He is fighting for me. But he's also following after me. This shepherd is wanting to lead your life, but he's also wanting to follow you. He's got your back. But through all this, it says that I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That is a promise. That if we allow this good shepherd to be our shepherd, then we get to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Forever. Now, why is it again that we don't want to make this shepherd be our shepherd? Why are we wanting to continue to search around for other shepherds that the world has to offer? Someone told me it's because sheep are some of the dumbest animals on the earth. That's what I was told. I did not come up with that. That's what I was told. But from a distance, they look beautiful. When you're driving by and you see hundreds of sheep on the hill, you're like, oh man, that is so awesome, and they look so fluffy, and I just want to go hug one and lay on one as a little pillow, and they're just so beautiful. But when you get up closer, they start to stink. And their wool is not as white as it looked from a distance. It's a little dirty. From all the dirt, all the nastiness that has just attached itself to them. But a lot of us, we look good from a distance. We look good from a distance. I'm not talking about physically. We all look good from it. You guys look beautiful from up here. Everyone looks gorgeous. But up close, we're broken. Up close, we're searching to be restored. We're searching for guidance. We're searching to be led. We're wanting to be protected. We're wanting to be loved. We're wanting to be followed. And the only way you can find that is if you allow the good shepherd, the one who lays his life down for his sheep, if you follow after him, then all of this will come. But you see, a lot of us, we try to do things that just get us to the next morning. because our hearts are in so much turmoil. Our souls are in so much chaos. And it's like our hearts and our souls are in a massive knot. But the shepherd, the good shepherd, says that there's something that I can do about that. I have something to offer you to help you get through this difficult time in life. Now, we all know that the seventh day is the day of rest. And we know that the seventh day was based, God created us on the sixth day. He made us perfect. He made us in the image of God. And they were so perfect that they were walking around the garden naked and they wasn't ashamed. And then Eve took a bite of the apple and gave it to Adam, and basically, as soon as that happened, their eyes were opened and they were immediately ashamed of their nakedness. But after all of that, God gave them a mission to do. He said that He wanted us to have dominion over everything that He has created. He wanted us to be good stewards of the things that He has placed here on earth. So they had a mission. We have a mission. But then He said on the seventh day, we're not going to do anything. We're going to rest. And you see, the Sabbath, I think, for a lot of us, we think it's just a day for a nap. In our minds, we picture God leaning back on His throne. He's got His feet propped up and He's sleeping. That's not the Sabbath. The Sabbath is getting God back in view. Yes, we need to rest, but it's taking that time to fix our eyes upon the author and the perfecter of our faith, the one that runs the world, the one that runs the universe. And it's kind of like we are relocating our minds to understand that God is the one that is in control. It's not just about sports. It's not just about taking a nap, but it's about us getting God, the creator of it all, the one that is breathing breath into us right now. It is about getting Him back in view. And so He says, today we do nothing because I want all of my creation to stop and reflect on how wonderful I am. And so He just wasn't up there napping, but He was up there receiving glory from all of His creation. Everything that He created is reflecting God's power, is reflecting His majesty. But could you imagine waking up and the first thing you see is God? Like literally see God. Would that not be amazing? Would that excite anyone? That would be epic, would it not be? So the first thing that he saw when he opened his eyes is he saw his Creator. And then he put him back to sleep and he woke up and then there was a woman beside him. He's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Put me to sleep again. What's going to happen next? He was a man. He was flesh. Who knows? I don't know. He woke up and a beautiful woman was there beside him. He's like, this is awesome. Put me to sleep again. What's next when I wake up? I hear you laughing. But the Sabbath day is the day that we're in right now. And all through this service, we are reflecting on God. We are getting God back in focus during worship. We are silencing the chaos of life. And we are trying to relocate our minds on who is running the universe. And when we come to the understanding that God is in control of everything, when we get the knowledge and the revelation of that, then something starts to happen in our lives. You know, in verse 5, going back to Psalm 23:5, it says that you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemy. So there is something powerful for us to discover that the place of revival most likely is in the middle of the battle that we are currently facing. It says that he prepares a table before you, before me, in the presence of our enemies. Now, in Daniel chapter 3, I know a lot of you guys know this, but it tells us an amazing story, I believe, in my heart about revival. And it's about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I know a lot of you guys know this, that King Nebuchadnezzar, can we just call him King Nebi for a minute? So King Nebi built this golden statue, and he wanted everyone to bow down and worship it. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said, we're not doing this. We only have one God that we will bow down and worship, and that is the one true God. And so this made King Nebi so mad. He was furious. And so Daniel chapter 3, verse 19 through 25, it says that then King Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace to be heated 7 times hotter than usual. That is how much anger and hatred was in his heart. And he commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie them up and throw them into the blazing furnace. Verse 21, it says, so these men, wearing their robes, their trousers, their turbans, and other clothes, were bound and thrown into the fiery furnace. Now, they were bound. They couldn't move. They were tied up very tightly. Remember that for a moment. It says in 22, then the king commanded, or his command was so urgent, and the furnace was so hot that the flames of the fire actually killed the soldiers who took them up. And it says, and these 3 men who were tied, who were firmly tied, fell into the blazing furnace. Verse 24 says that the king, Nebuchadnezzar, leaped to his feet in amazement and asked his advisors, weren't there 3 men that were bound and tied up and that was thrown into the fire? And all of his men said, well, certainly, your majesty. In verse 25, he says, well, look, I see 4 men that are walking around. Now, we just got done reading that they were tied, they were bound, they were firmly tied to where they couldn't move. But yet, when King Nebuchadnezzar looked into this furnace, he says, I see 4 men freely walking around. And it says that they were unharmed. And then he goes on to say that the 4th man looks like the Son of God. Verse 26, Nebuchadnezzar then approached the opening of the blazing furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out. Come here. And so they came out of the fire. And so did you catch, with reading these verses, that God never got them out of the fire? He never rescued them from the fire. He did not do it. The king, well, see, I believe that they were having revival. I believe that they were worshiping God because he got in the fire with them. They were walking around freely. I don't think they were just walking around, hey, what do you want to eat when we get out? No, they were excited that the Son of God came and got into the furnace, got into the trial, got into the circumstance with them, and they were untied and was able to walk around in a furnace that was heated 7 times hotter, and they were unharmed. And you see, the one who got them out of the fire was the one who put them in the fire. The enemy that hated them, The enemy that threw them in there to kill them is the one who said, servants of the Most High God, come out. God was in the fire with them, unharmed. The enemy is the one that got them out. And so you see, a lot of times we think that revival happens. See, if that was us in that furnace, we would think revival would be God reaching down there, picking us up out the fire, and then throwing King Nebi in the fire. That's revival. He got me out of this mess. He got me out of the fire. He got me out of the trial. He got me out of the circumstance. And some of you probably know where I'm going with this, and you don't like it. But sometimes revival happens when God gets in the fire with us. You see, we think revival is a big arena packed out. No, revival can take place in your own heart. When you have that encounter with God, revival can break loose in your life. It's not about selling out thousands of seats in a stadium or just packing out a church. No, you can have your own individual revival with God. In the middle of the fire, in the middle of the storm, you can have revival. So how many of you guys want revival in the middle of the fire? But let's see what happened to them. It says that in verse 27, that all the prefects and the governors and the royal advisors crowded around them when they got out. And it says that they saw that the fire had not yet harmed or had not hurt their bodies, nor was their hair singed. Their robes was not scorched, and there was not even a smell of fire on them. You see, but a lot of people want God to get us out of the fire instead of allowing revival to happen in the fire. So why would we not want revival in the fire? We just got done reading that there were 3 men that were thrown in the furnace. When we looked in, there were 4. And when they got out, they were unharmed. They didn't even smell like a bonfire. You go stand beside a bonfire 10 seconds, you smell like smoke up and down. It's so nasty. I can't stand it. But you see, God does deliver us. God is our deliverer. Amen? He is our deliverer. But there are some times where he will deliver us out of stuff, or excuse me, that he will deliver us in stuff before he will deliver us out of it. Because it's in the fire that something really powerful happens to us. And then something beautiful happens in us. So I want to use this table for a second as a little illustration. Thank you for setting it up this morning. I came in and everything was already there. Praise the Lord. I think it was Karen and Mary Beth. You guys are awesome. It was Karen. She just winked at me. Love you, Miss Karen. So Psalms 23 tells us that God sets a table before us in the presence of my enemies. In the presence of my enemies. Now, none of you this morning are my enemies, but I'm going to make you my enemies for a few moments. So God prepares a table before us. There's 2 seats, one for you and one for your shepherd. So he prepares a table before us in the presence of our enemies. He prepares a table before us in the presence of our enemies. that should bring us joy. That should cause our heart to leap with joy. Because in the midst and in the presence of our enemies, the presence of God is present. Because he says he prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And so, some of you might be going through a trial. Some of it might be cancer, it might be divorce, maybe your kids are going through a difficult time and they're not following after the Lord, or maybe your business is struggling, maybe you're having financial struggles in your life. But maybe if it's none of that, we're in a spiritual battle. And Apostle Paul tells us that in Ephesians 6, that our battle is not between flesh and blood, but it's between the invisible enemy that creates a visible war in our life. And so, why is it that at times we forget that God has prepared a table for us in the presence of our enemies? That is a promise from the Lord, that he's going to protect us. And you know, 1 Peter 5:8 says that the devil prowls around like a roaring lion. And he's seeking someone to devour. So what the enemy is going to do is the enemy is looking for a crack or a crevice. And what he's going to do is he's going to find someone and he's going to walk up, hey, how y'all doing? What's up? How you doing?
Great.
Good. How you doing?
Okay, I guess.
Good. How do you live with her?
Wonderfully.
How do you put up with him? You might want to get rid of him before he gets the chance to get rid of you. Better watch your back, bro.
I'll watch it.
You already had one pastor popped. You know? Could be her. But you see, what he does is he looks for a crevice. He looks for a crack in our marriage, in our choices, in our words, in our actions, how we handle situations. He looks for a crack that he can get his foot in. And when he does, chaos happens. The Lord has prepared before you a table in the presence of your enemies. How many of you guys have a child? You see, a lot of us say that the devil's after me. The devil's after me. That might be true, but he's really after the heart of your Father. And so what he's doing is he's sitting here saying that I am looking to dent into the heart of God. He's saying that I'm trying to dent in anywhere that I can find to dent into the glory of God. And when one of our kids get hurt, we say, man, it hurt them, but not as much as it hurt us. You see, God is a father. And when one of his children is under attack, the enemy is after the heart of our Father. Because as parents, we see the promise in our kids. We see the provision. We see everything that we've prayed for, everything that we've hoped for. And when the enemy is attacking our kids or is attacking our lives, we feel it and it hurts us more than it actually hurts them. It's the same way with God. But you see, he's prowling around like a lion. But the crazy thing about him is that, yeah, he might be prowling around, but if we're not careful, he'll just pull up a seat and have a seat at your table that was prepared for you. in the presence of your enemies. And he'll start talking to you. Hey, let me pour you a drink. What's up? How you doing? I'm not talking to myself. I'm pretending someone's there. How you doing? Then he's going to start eating your food. What's up? How you doing? Yeah, he probably talks with his mouth full. And just like that, and they were pretty good. Good little snack. But just like that, you or me let a serial killer sit down at your table. And just like that, he'll take you out. Because all it takes is just a little crack to get into your life. All it takes is you to slack a little bit on making decisions. Oh, he's not a believer. She's not a believer, but I want to date him anyways. I'm pretty sure I can get them on the Jesus train. And then what happens? That person falls off the wagon. Because it's a lot easier to pull someone down than it is to bring them up. So the Lord has prepared a table before you in the presence of your enemies. And so what we have to do is that we have to allow only certain people at our table. They're not welcome to stay forever, but we want God-fearing people at our table. And we want to ask them, I am trying to hear the voice of the Lord clearly. Can you help me navigate through this? But he didn't create a table and place a table before you and before your enemy. It says that he placed a table before you. And you have the power to determine who sits at your table. It says that if you resist the enemy, he will flee. So when you resist the enemy and you get your eyes focused back on your shepherd, the one who says, I am the good shepherd, the one who lays down his life for his sheep, when you get your eyes fixed back on him and you resist this distraction that might be at your table, he will flee. But some of you are like, how do I know that he's at my table? He'll come at you at maybe three ways. He'll say, you're not going to make it through this. Say, you're weak. There's no way you can beat this. Look around. You're not strong enough to beat this trial. Then he'll say, you're not good enough. No one likes you. You're pathetic. Your life is a joke. You don't do anything for anyone. Your life isn't worth it. Your life isn't worth living for. And then he'll tell you that everyone's out to get you. He'll tell you that everyone is against you, that no one likes you. Did you see Pastor Josh? He walked right by me and didn't speak. He don't like me. Oh my gosh. No, maybe I was just busy trying to figure something out. But the moment that we fall into that trap and we start believing it, and we start operating our lives as if we don't matter, as if we're not good enough, as if no one likes us, as if we're not strong enough, then you know that you've given the enemy a seat at your table. You decide who sits at your table. It's part of free will. You decide who sits here. It can be you and your shepherd, or it can be you, your shepherd, and your adversary. You choose. Worship team, can you come up? You see, what is the table that God prepares for us? It's the provision of God. It's the will of the Father. That if you will allow God to guide your life, if you will allow the Good Shepherd to guide your life, then it'll just be you and him. And you see, God says that I'm going to bring my presence into the presence of your enemies. And if you will resist your enemies, they're going to flee. But you got to resist them. You got to be strong in your faith. You see, John 10:10 tells us that the thief comes to only kill, steal, and destroy. But Jesus says that I have come to give you life, so that you may have life and have it to the full. Another translation says, so that you may have life and have it more abundantly. But then verse 11 says, I am the good shepherd who lays down his life for you, for his sheep. So you can accept that invitation and allow God to be your good shepherd, or you can reject it and allow you to continue to be the shepherd of your life, or your addiction to be the shepherd of your life, or your career, or any idol that it may be. But when we ask God, how does he want to use us today? Ask God, God, how do you want to use me today in the middle of the fire? And revival will break out in your heart, in your life, in your marriage, in your career, in your business, through your finances, if you follow the Good Shepherd. Stand with me.